it's taken a long time to get here, but we finally have part of DC's plans for their phase 1 of their cinematic universe going forward from James Gunn and Peter Safran, the two heads of the DCU. So they had a whole press junket. They talked about what's going to be going on in the future. Now, this first chapter is called Gods and Monsters, and James Gunn clarified saying this is not all of phase 1, this is just a part of this first chapter. So we still don't even know everything. There's still a bunch of other stuff that could be announced. This is just what they felt comfortable letting us know today. There is a lot. I'm going to be going over all of it. There is so much to talk about. I'm excited, and I want to hear from you guys in the comments below. What are you most excited about with this, and what are you most excited about? What are you most fearful for? I really want to hear from you guys in the comments below. But without further ado, let's get into it. First, let's talk about some of the overall stuff as far as the DCU is concerned and the movies that are coming out that were in development before Peter Safran and James Gunn took over. So, they said that this first chapter, again, is going to be called Gods and Monsters, and that a big initiative that they're doing here is they want everything to be connected, not just movies, but movies, TV shows, animation, and gaming. I'm not the biggest fan of that approach. They still said there's room for Elseworld stuff like the Batman and the Joker, like that stuff will still be happening and it'll be Elseworlds, but I don't think you should necessarily connect everything. I'm not the biggest fan of that. I wish, because it sounds like there will be some Elseworld stuff, but it sounds like that's really going to be limited. Like, it seems like 95% of everything's going to be connected, which just, I don't know. It feels like it limits you a lot, where I wish they were more, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes forward. But the way they're framing everything, it sounds like it's mostly going to be connected, which again, I feel like limits you a lot, especially in like animation and gaming, but who knows? We'll see, but that's one of their big initiatives. When speaking about the movies coming out that were made before Gunn and Safran were involved, Safran said, "These 4 movies are terrific. There's no reason why any of the characters and the actors playing those characters are not part of the DCU. There's nothing that prohibits that from happening." Which to me sounds like code for just saying, yeah, if the box office does good, we'll keep them going, but if people don't go to see it and people don't like it, we're going to stop. That's what it sounds like. Of course, with Wonder Woman, that's different because she doesn't have a movie coming out, but with like Shazam, Aquaman, Blue Beetle, that's easy, and The Flash, that's easy to be like, well, it all depends on the reception, which is honestly how it should be. You know, if people don't like it, then obviously stop, don't keep making it. So, yeah, I'm glad that they're not just instantly axing it, but that does make me upset with axing Henry Cavill, because it's like everyone else gets a chance except for Henry Cavill. But I think the reason they did that to Henry Cavill is because James Gunn really wants to mold his own Superman. I don't think he wants one that is that anyone else had anything to do with. I think he really wants to be the sole creative force for Superman, to have his own Superman instead of like remolding someone else's. That's the sense I get, and I think that's why Henry Cavill got specifically booted out. Not because like he hates Henry Cavill or anything, but because he wants to do his own Superman. And with Henry Cavill, someone else has already done something with that character, so he has to start from scratch. That's how I think. It sucks because I love Henry Cavill's Superman. He's perfect for the role, but that's the sense I get, and that's why it seems like, yeah, he's cool with Aquaman staying, he's cool with Gal Gadot staying as Wonder Woman and all these other people, but Henry Cavill is the one he got rid of. I think that's because he wants to do his own Superman, to where with Aquaman and Wonder Woman, he's like, yeah, whatever, keep him going. I don't really care to do my own thing with them. That's the idea that I think is going on with James Gunn here. To build the overarching story for the DCU, Gunn brought in a writer's room of Drew Goddard, Jeremy Slater, Christina Hobson, Crystal Henry, and comics writer Tom King. Gunn indicated that at least some of these writers would continue working on DCU projects, including Henry, who is showrunning Waller. So, when I hadn't heard of most of these people other than Tom King, when I looked into him, the only one with a good resume was Drew Goddard. He's done some great stuff like The Martian, and he, I believe, created the Netflix Daredevil show, which is amazing. So he's got a pretty good resume. Everyone else, not so much. When I looked them up, it was like one person wrote like a single episode of the Watchmen HBO show. Someone else did like a thing here or there. So not the best resumes. And Tom King, out of all the comics creators you could get, you get Tom King. I hate that. But maybe it'll be the opposite of Jeff Johns. You know how Jeff Johns, in my opinion, is a fantastic comic writer. Amazing. But when it came to adapting stuff to the screen, he just did horrible for the most part. Like, a lot of his stuff that he's involved with was bad, which is weird because it's like amazing comic creator, horrible when it comes to adapting stuff to the big screen. Weird. Not comic accurate at all. It was odd. Maybe it'll be the opposite for Tom King. Horrible comic book writer, great at adapting stuff to the big screen. Maybe, probably not, but I'm going to try to be optimistic here. I know a lot of people love Tom King. I like some of his stuff, but a lot of his stuff lately is horrible. A lot of it's the same thing. Oh, here's a 12-issue maxi series of a previous character that wasn't depressed now being depressed, because that's all Tom King knows how to write. And the dialogue all sounds the same, and it's really bad, and there's a 9-panel grid, and nothing's happening. He's wasting a very talented artist on them drawing a 9-panel grid of someone's emotionless face just being depressed. It's like, he's used the same template like ever since Mr. Miracle. Since Mr. Miracle, he's kind of like been doing the same thing, and I'm getting tired of it. Maybe he'll do better at adapting stuff to the screen. Who knows? But man, out of all the other talented creators you could get, getting him is like, damn. Disappointing. I know some people will be excited by that though, because Tom King has a lot of fans, but me personally, I'm not one of them. And again, the other people that we see don't really excite me that much. Peter Safran also said a goal of theirs was to do 2 movies and 2 TV series per year. He said they're not 100% sticking to that. James Gunn even emphasized that nothing will like keep going. I believe production like won't start on something until there's a screenplay finished, and he talked about how they're very adamant about stuff like that, because it seemed like he's throwing shade at Marvel, talking about how like superhero movies nowadays will be well into production and won't even have the 3rd act written, and they'll write it during production, and he is not about that. And he talked a lot about stuff like that, and is saying that he's not the biggest fan of how a lot of comic movies are made now, why they all feel the same and how they all have the same structure, and he really wants uniqueness. In fact, at the end of his announcement video for this, it felt like he kind of threw a little jab at Marvel and Kevin Feige and how they do things, because you know, over at the MCU, there are some really good movies at the MCU. Like, I really like Winter Soldier, I really like Infinity War, the first Iron Man. There are some great movies, but the vast majority of Marvel movies are just okay and feel like they were directed by the same person. They're not, but they feel like they are. It felt like one person made this. Like, if someone told you, if you didn't know any better and you watched the movies, you'd be like, and someone said, hey, did you know one guy directed all that? You'd be like, yeah, I can believe that, because it feels like that. There's no really unique voice other than a few movies, like the Russo brothers movies. Most of them feel like they're like directed by committee almost. So, James Gunn kind of took a little jab at that, at least I felt. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, and I'll read that quote now. James Gunn said, "One of the things that's very important to me in all of these movies and TV series is that the director's vision and the vision of the writers and all of the creators is unique and something special. Storytelling is always king. That's all that matters to us, and I want to be true to those stories, and I want to be true to you guys and really give you something different than you've ever seen before." Again, that sounds directly like a shot at Marvel. Like, we're going to do something different. We're going to really honor the creators. We're going to have their vision up front, because it feels like no one in the MCU has a vision. It feels like it's all like, this is the same person making this. Like, there's no uniqueness to it. So I really like that. And also, when James Gunn was first announced as going to be the head of the DCU along with Peter Safran, in my video I pointed this out because I was worried about how he was going to do things, and I don't know if he's going to be great or not. But the one thing I said is, I believe he will let creators do their thing, because he himself is a creator. He's a writer-director. He probably doesn't like the times that he's been, hamstrung, the time he's been held back by Marvel execs or Kevin Feige or whatever. Of course, he'll never publicly admit that because it's unprofessional, but I guarantee you there are times where he wanted to do things and Kevin Feige and Marvel like, no. So I'm assuming that's why he has this stance, and that's why I said before I believed he would have this stance, because it makes sense when you look at his background, and assuming he sticks to his word, this sounds great. Now, when talking about the Flash movie, some things were confirmed that we already knew, which is that it will be a reboot. We basically already knew that. We've known for a while that's going to be a modified version of Flashpoint where it reboots the DC universe, which is the perfect thing to do right now with them wanting to reboot DC and start from scratch, so it makes sense. We knew that was going to be happening, and then Blue Beetle and Aquaman will be the first movies that take place after this reboot. So it'll be interesting to see what was affected there with those movies being being involved with the previous universe, but now taking place directly after the reboot. That'll be interesting to see. And then James Gunn and Peter Safran had a couple of things to say about the Flash movie. James Gunn said, "I will say here that Flash is probably one of the greatest superhero movies ever made." Peter Safran said, "Ezra is completely committed to their recovery, and we are fully supportive of that journey that they're on right now. When the time is right, when they feel like they're ready to have the discussion, we'll all figure it out, what's the best path forward is for us. But right now, they're completely focused on the recovery, and in our conversations with them over the last couple of months, it feels like they're making enormous progress." Now, a lot of people see this and think that, wow, they get rid of Henry Cavill, but they keep the criminal that is constantly doing horrific things. And I 100% agree with that take and seeing where people are coming from. But I believe this is all lip service because they have a movie that they think is going to be good, that they spent money on, and a good way to make sure that movie sinks and does not succeed is to say, hey, the criminal that stars in the movie is not going to be continuing going forward, and we're condemning them, but we're still going to release the movie. That's not good press. So I think they're going to keep all this lip service up and be like, yeah, Ezra's really making a lot of progress, and he's, doing all the blah, blah, he's going to therapy or whatever and getting himself sorted out to make sure he doesn't choke any more women or hold any more people hostage. So I can see them like keeping up this lip service, but then after the movie comes out, after all that, I think we'll hear about, or also in the movie, there's rumors about Ezra getting replaced and having like another Barry Allen from another universe coming in, or you could have Wally replace him. There's a million different things you could do. So that could happen, or even if that doesn't happen, I could see them afterwards just being like, yeah, Ezra's gone, because then you have no more financial risk. Also, I do believe that this movie's going to be good. James Gunn saying that it's he doesn't have to say it's one of the best comic movies he's ever seen. He just has to say, wow, it's really good. He's specifically saying it's one of the best comic movies he's ever seen. All the things I've heard from behind the scenes from people that have seen it say it's pretty good. And DC sticking their neck out for Ezra and this movie constantly over and over again makes me think that they have a product here that they believe in and think is good. So, who knows? It feels like it's got to be the Citizen Kane of comic book movies to justify what's been going on, but we'll see. I do think that it will be borderline good. A lot of the plot details sound horrible, but everyone seems to really like it from what I've heard. So, The Flash is a very interesting, one of the most intriguing comic book movies ever because of everything surrounding it. Just a mess. Now let's talk about the new TV shows and movies that were announced. We're going to start off with the movies and then I'll go into the TV shows. So the first one is Superman Legacy, set to open on July 11th, 2025. Superman Legacy will mark the start of the DCU, as Safran put it, but it will not be an origin for Superman. It focuses on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. He is the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. He is kindness in a world that thinks of kindness as old-fashioned. Gunn is writing the project, and Safran said he hopes Gunn can be persuaded perhaps to direct it as well, while James Gunn was sitting right next to him and apparently remained just stone-faced and didn't give up anything there. Everything Peter Safran said there to describe Superman is perfect. He said the American way, the naughty phrase, the one you're not allowed to say. I can't believe it. Thank you. I can't believe he said that. I already saw people getting pissed about it on Twitter, like, the American way, bunch of dumbasses, shut up. I hate those people. So happy he said the American way. Yes. So everything he said there is great, balancing out his being human, like being raised on Earth while also having his Kryptonian heritage. It's always been a big part of the character. Someone who is seen as sort of outdated for his Boy Scout ways. I think that's always been a huge part of the character. Seeing that on the screen will be cool. And just being unapologetically Superman, unapologetically standing up for truth, justice, and the American way, instead of being like, I've got to be edgy and sad. I need to go up to a mountain and talk to my ghost dad while he tells me he like drowned some farm animals. I'm glad that we're past that. We don't need to see that. So I'm excited. I don't want James Gunn to direct it though. He's writing it. We know that. We've known that for a while now, that he's going to be writing the movie. But I really hope he's not directing it. I just don't think James Gunn suits Superman. I do not think his style suits Superman. And I think if he's writing a script for someone else, maybe potentially it could be, better than him writing and directing it. But who knows? If I had to bet money on it, I would say that he's going to end up directing it, because like I said before, I think he really wants to have control of Superman in the DC universe, and that's why he got rid of Cavill. So if I had to bet, I would say he's probably going to, especially with Peter Safran even saying it right there, he's probably going to direct it. I wish it was someone else, but I will take him over J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams is like producing the other Ta-Nehisi Coates Superman movie, which sounds horrendous, but for years it's been like J.J. Abrams has been rumored to work on an actual Superman movie, and it's like anything over him. But yeah, everything Peter Safran said there sounds great. I'm excited. Superman Legacy, they used All-Star Superman artwork from Frank Quitely when talking about this in the video. So of course it's going to be inspired by All-Star Superman. James Gunn's even posted pictures of like him reading All-Star Superman while writing the movie. So yeah, All-Star Superman's a great comic. It's the most generic, like, I like Superman book. It's fantastic, but it is the most like mainstream generic, like, I like Superman. What Superman comic have you read? All-Star Superman. It's like, Okay. But it is a fantastic comic, so I have no problem with them drawing inspiration from that, as far as the character goes. But as far as the story, no, not for a first Superman movie. But it being called Legacy for a first movie is interesting. It's an interesting title, so we'll see. We got an Authority movie announced. James Gunn said it's being written right now, but he did not say who's writing the screenplay. I don't really care about the Authority at all. I kind of have PTSD when I hear about them because of the Superman and the Authority book that came out not too long ago from Grant Morrison. That book was horrendous. It's not at all the Authority, but that's what I think of when I hear the Authority, and that book was bad. But yeah, I like Midnighter, so that'll be cool seeing Midnighter on the big screen. But I don't really have many thoughts about this. I'm glad they're giving more obscure characters the limelight, which we knew would happen with James Gunn. But again, also, back to my... Sorry, I hit my mic. Back to my point before about how I'm not the biggest fan of everything being connected. James Gunn has a habit of taking these unknown characters, putting them on the big screen, and it's like, cool, they're getting adapted, but then they are nothing like their comic book selves. That sucks when everything's connected, because now everything has to be the James Gunn version of this character instead of the actual comic book character themselves. That worries me. For instance, Bloodsport in the Suicide Squad. I like Bloodsport as a character in the Suicide Squad. He's not Bloodsport at all. I like Bloodsport in the comics. He's just an absolute maniac, psychopath Superman villain. One of the darkest Superman villains. But in the Suicide Squad, he's kind of just like a misunderstood anti-hero that at the end has a heart of gold. That's going to change Bloodsport forever because everything's connected now. So that's going to happen on a much larger scale now. So I'm not the biggest fan of that. But yeah, the Authority, don't really have much of an opinion on that. Happy for Authority fans, though. Good for you guys. Batman the Brave and the Bold was a movie that was announced, and it will be the introduction of the DCU Batman, because The Batman from Robert Pattinson, that's also got a release date sometime in 2025, the sequel to that. That's part of the Elseworlds. Thank you. I'm glad it's not being roped in with the rest of the DC Universe. Let Matt Reeves do whatever he wants over there. The first Batman is amazing. I'm excited for the sequel. The Brave and the Bold will introduce the Bat family, Gunn said. First among them is Robin, who is returning fully to live-action movies for the first time since Batman and Robin. This version of Robin is Damian Wayne. Gunn described him as our favorite Robin, a little son of a bitch, an assassin, and a murderer. Damian is Bruce Wayne's biological son, a fact unknown to Wayne for the first 8 to 10 years of Damian's life. It is a very strange sort of father-son story about the two of them, Gunn said. The project is based on the run of Batman comics authored by Grant Morrison, who Gunn said was exceptionally influential on the DCU. I love that run on Batman and Robin, but Dick Grayson is Batman during most of that. So, like, there was a little bit before then where Damian was introduced, and then, you know, Batman went away and everything happened, and he time traveled because of Darkseid and all that, Final Crisis, and then Dick Grayson became Batman, and they have a wonderful back and forth. This time, Dick Grayson won't be Batman, unless they do that, which I highly doubt they do that this soon. I doubt they, like, introduce the DCU Batman and then have him get sent back in time because he gets hit by Darkseid's Omega Beams. I don't think that's going to happen. So this will be interesting. Saying that Grant Morrison is exceptionally influential in the DCU. He's done some great stuff. He has arguably the greatest Batman run of all time, one of the best. Superman, he did All-Star Superman, which a lot of people regard as the best Superman story of all time. It's definitely up there. He's written some great stuff. Now, in recent years, Grant Morrison's stuff has been just not good. So hopefully they mean the older Grant Morrison stuff and not the more modern Grant Morrison stuff. Because the modern Grant Morrison stuff, as far as his DC stuff is concerned, not very good. But yeah, so I'm happy that they're doing this. I think introducing Robin is great. Also, something that's cool about this is this means that potentially Dick Grayson could be the Robin of the Batman if they introduce Robin in there. I think that'd be really cool, because my first thought here is like, oh, that's cool that Damian is Robin. That means that the Bat family's already all grown up and we have Dick Grayson as Nightwing. That's cool. But also I was like, I'm a little sad because not seeing like the Dick Grayson Bruce relationship properly like shown from the beginning is a little sad to miss that out in live action. But then I thought, wait, they could just do that in the Pattinson universe. That's cool. So yeah, I'm excited about this. This sounds cool, and I'm excited. It's interesting hearing someone describe Damian as their favorite Robin, though. That's definitely a lot more rare of a take. We also got a Supergirl movie announced. It's called Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, based on Tom King's comic run of the same name. Woman of Tomorrow features Superman's cousin Kara Zor-El, who, as Gunn explained, is a very different type of Supergirl. We see the difference between Superman, who was sent to Earth and raised by loving parents from the time he's an infant, versus Supergirl, who was raised on a rock chip off of Krypton and watched everyone around her die and be killed in terrible ways for the first 14 years of her life. Gunn called this Supergirl much more hardcore. I haven't read the comic because it's written by Tom King, and also I've never been the biggest Supergirl fan. Superman's my favorite superhero, but Supergirl I never really cared for. I just never cared about her character. I thought she was just okay, and she exists. That was always kind of my thoughts on Supergirl. Every time she showed up in a Superman comic, she never really enhanced it for me, so I never cared about her. I've heard mixed things on the Woman of Tomorrow comic. Mainly King Dick writers love it, and everyone else I've heard didn't care for it very much, so who knows? Man, adapting a Tom King comic is just makes me upset that's what they're going for, but who knows? We'll see how. Maybe it'll be good. We got a Swamp Thing movie announced, which sounds awesome. Swamp Thing will investigate the dark origins of Swamp Thing, Safran said, through the prism of horror. This is a much more horrific film, but will still have Swamp Thing interact with the other characters, he added. That sounds cool. A horror-style Swamp Thing movie sounds awesome. You can go more into the magic side of the DC universe through Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing's a really cool character. There's a lot of cool things you can do. Still having him interact with the other characters, even though he's going to be more horror-based in his own movie, sounds cool. I'm excited for this. This sounds cool. That's all the movies that were announced. Now we're on to TV shows. First up, we got Creature Commandos, which is an animated show, and they said that they want to have characters seamlessly move in and out of animation, which I think sounds like a good idea and could be really cool. James Gunn wrote every episode of this show and is currently in production. Gunn said that the actors cast to voice the characters on the show will also play the roles in live action later on in the DCU. So yeah, that sounds interesting. I'm so excited for more animated projects, especially quality animated ones. That's something that Marvel has definitely fumbled. And yeah, this sounds cool. But again, like I said before, with everything being tied together, who knows how this will go. Remember when we had Earth's Mightiest Heroes, an amazing Avengers show, and then they canceled it in favor of a more MCU-themed Avengers show, and it sucked balls? Hopefully we don't get stuff like that. We'll see. We got an Amanda Waller show, which will be a continuation of Peacemaker. I don't know who the hell asked for this. This is the dumbest thing I saw in the announcement. An Amanda Waller show. And it's going to have her annoying-ass daughter in it, too. Peacemaker, I thought Peacemaker was alright. I enjoyed it enough. I thought Amanda Waller's daughter was the worst part of that show, and she's probably going to play a big role in this. And I liked Amanda Waller as a character. I think she was one of the best parts of both Suicide Squad movies, even the first horrible one, and she was great in Peacemaker. But I don't want a TV show about her. Who cares about this? Is just one of the dumber ones. But we also got one of the coolest announcement as far as TV shows goes, which is Lanterns. The show will focus on two of the best-known members of the Green Lantern Corps, Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, who investigate a mystery that Safran said plays a really big role leading us into the main story that we're telling across our film and television. It's a true detective terrestrial-based investigation story. This sounds cool. A true detective space cop story with Green Lanterns sounds awesome. My only thing with this is, I honestly think this would be cooler in animation. Because you're on TV show, you're on TV, you're a TV show, you're on a TV show budget, and you're doing Green Lanterns, I feel like there's going to be a lot of, logic problems in this movie, or TV show, where they'll encounter something and it'll be yeah, if they had the budget, they would just use their rings and do something here. But it's a TV show, so they can't. I feel like there's going to be a lot of that, to where you avoid all that if you just do an animated show. I still think this could be really cool. We'll see how it goes. We got a Themyscira show called Paradise Lost. It's going to take place before Wonder Woman was around, and it's supposed to be Game of Thrones-esque and have a lot of political drama. It sounds kind of interesting. I'm in the middle here where I'm partially who cares who wanted this, and then also that sounds kind of cool and this could be good. So I'm 50-50 on this idea. We'll just have to wait and see. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have much to say about this. It sounds kind of interesting, but it sounds way better than Waller, I'll say that. And then the last thing was we got a Booster Gold TV show, which we didn't really get any details. James Gunn kind of just described Booster Gold's character to us. So, yeah, Booster Gold TV show. I'm happy that Booster Gold's getting more of the limelight. He's a really cool character, and I think this really depends on the casting. You really need to nail who's going to play Booster Gold. And who would play Booster Gold? Honestly, I think Channing Tatum would be a really good Booster Gold. I think he can nail that vibe. I think he'd be really good. But who knows? We'll see who they go with. And yeah, that's basically it for the announcements. If you want to go hear me go into more detail on this, I'm going to talk about it on my podcast, Nerd Talk, which you can listen to on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Podbean, and that'll all be linked in the description down below. We talk about all that. We also talk about the newest episode of The Last of Us on there. So if you want to check that out, that's linked in the description. But yeah, I'm hopeful for the future of the DC Universe. I'm happy that they finally have a plan. I'm happy that their plan isn't just to completely copy Marvel. They're doing something new and different. That sounds cool. I hope we get a bunch of more animated projects announced, because I love me some comic book animation, and I think that's been left in the dust in like the past decade or so. So to get more focus on that would be really cool. And yeah, I'm just excited that we finally have a future in the DC universe isn't just like so fractured. So this sounds interesting. Hope it's good. Hope I'm not eating my words in like a couple of years, but we'll see. And again, I want to hear from you guys in the comments below about what your thoughts on all this are. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you later.